Good morning. Welcome to everyone, and especially to those who may have come for the first time here. It's always a joy. And this will be our closing event of Spiritual Renewal Week. And there are just so many people to thank. But I don't want to sound like those people who receive the Academy Award and go on and on. But all the presenters, all the cooks, all the singers, the amazing, ever-expanding light staff, and the community here at Ananda Village, and all of our communities, and all of you who have come, traveled maybe a great distance at perhaps some expense to come here. Why? Because you want to grow closer to God. And we thank you. You are our family, we are your family. And it's just as we were singing Joya, Joya, we could have probably added a number of other languages, Chinese and so forth. But the universal language that everyone understands is joy. Once Jyotish and I were visiting our meditation group in Croatia, and they had translated a number of masters' chants into Croatian, and they said to us, very few of them spoke English, they said to us, "You won't understand the words that we sing, but feel our love for God," and that we certainly could. So this is the common thread of all humanity, is the love for God. Whether we know it or not, whether we're running away from it or not, it's where we all will end up. And what a joy to be on this journey with so many brothers and sisters and like-minded souls. So I'm going to read, as we do every week, from Rays of the One Light. It's a beautiful, beautiful passage this week. Couldn't be more fitting to close Spiritual Renewal Week. And again, for those of you who are new, this book is weekly commentaries comparing the essential truths of the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita, which was part of our Guru's mission to show the underlying truths in these two great world religions. And someone once asked Master, why only Christianity and Hinduism? And he said, it is the will of Babaji. Which kind of doesn't leave much room for argument. Okay, our topic this week is abiding in God. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. Yogananda often emphasized, more often to his disciples than to the general public, but also to everyone generally, for it was a universal teaching, the importance of attunement. For divine understanding cannot be created, it must be perceived. To the disciples, Yogananda spoke of the importance of attunement with the Guru. To others, he urged the importance, at least, of attuning oneself to higher consciousness. Can an eagle rise without the support of the sustaining air? Jesus Christ said in the Gospel of St. John, chapter 15, I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me you can do nothing. If a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch and is withered, and men gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. If ye abide in me, and my words abide in you, you shall ask what ye will, and it shall be done unto you. Herein is my Father glorified, that ye bear much fruit. So shall ye be my disciples. How can we abide in him? Jesus says if my words abide in you. By words, he meant not only his spoken words, but his vibrations, his consciousness, of which the words are only an expression. We must abide by the teachings, but we must also absorb those teachings into ourselves, that they become our own experience. For disciples of this path, the more in their hearts they live consciously in the presence of the masters, the more they will find the divine presence living within them. And for all seekers, whether disciples or not, the more they live sustained inwardly by the awareness of God's presence, the higher will they find themselves soaring in wisdom and joy. For the Bhagavad Gita says in the 10th chapter, I am the source of everything. From me all creation emerges. Blessed with this realization, the wise, awe-stricken, adore me. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
Good morning, friends. I too want to welcome all of you who are here. Many of you, as Devi said, have participated in this absolutely fabulous week of Spiritual Renewal Week. We keep saying this, but this was the best year ever. And as it should be, you know. Some things, as they age, they get better and better. And so the community has grown stronger, the dedication has grown stronger, many things are stronger. For those of you who didn't participate, it's available online, and I highly, highly recommend that you tune into the classes. They were really very, very inspiring. I'll read from Whispers from Eternity, which we do. These are prayer demands of Yogananda to the divine, and they show basically every aspect of our relationship with God and how to bring that to the highest. Today I'm going to read the very first one in the book, First Prayer Demand, and so we can assume that Master put special importance on that. This is the Cosmic Salutation, inspired by the Bhagavad Gita. O Spirit, I bow to thee in front of me, behind me, on the left and on the right. I bow to thee above and beneath. I bow to thee all around me. I bow to thee within and without. I bow to thee everywhere, for thou art everywhere. It's a very good thing to keep in mind. I know that when I take a walk, I will occasionally, this sentiment, this statement will come into my mind. And as I'm walking, I'll try to feel God in front of me, God behind me, to the left, to the right, above and beneath, and most importantly, within, because God permeates everything. So the topic is, how do we attune ourselves more deeply to the divine vibration? Swami told us that Master would talk very eloquently and openly, and he was a font of friendship and kindness, especially to visitors and people who were coming, but to the disciples and the deep disciples, mostly he was quiet, and in some cases, completely silent. There was one instance where he was with a small group of people, 3 or 4, there's a beautiful place near Palm Springs called Palm Canyon, and it's on an American Indian reservation, but it's one of those special spots on earth. The light filtering through this palm grove that goes along a little stream, the light filtering through that has just a mystical and magical quality. It's there that Master wrote that beautiful chant, "Come out of the silent sky." And so he would go there occasionally, but on this occasion he camped there, spent several days, and he would bathe in the stream and wash his hair and then sit on a rock and meditate. There were 2 or 3 disciples with him, and he told them, just keep complete silence. Tune in to the divine. Tune in to the presence of God as the sound of Om, as the silent sky, and draw that grace to yourself. So attunement, more than anything, means sensitively attuning ourselves to the vibration of the divine. Now that vibration of the divine obviously is, one might say, manifest so that we can perceive it palpably through the great masters. But it is here, and the first thing we have to do is begin to tune in very sensitively and draw from that. Master said something really quite interesting. He said that the human body draws prana from several sources. Obviously, we draw prana from the food that we eat. We draw prana from the water that we drink, from the air that we breathe. But he said also we draw prana from sunlight. And he suggested that we do sunbathing on a regular basis. And he said that you can do sunbathing unconsciously. You can lay there passively, and you will get some benefit because the sun, the rays of the sun have prana, and your body will absorb those. But he said, if you tune in, if you actively try to draw energy from the sunlight, you will receive up to 100 times as much as if you're doing it just passively. That's a very good symbol for attunement. We're bathed by the grace of God and the grace of the masters, more so than the sun. In fact, if we meditate and look into the light, Master said that the light in the spiritual eye that we see, that's the real light. The sun is a symbol of the spiritual eye. We think of it the other way because we're stuck on the material plane, the physical plane. So we think the source of light as the sun is the most powerful, it's bigger, and so on. But the real energy, the real prana, comes from the more subtle light that we see in meditation, that we focus on in meditation. So if you're afraid of sunburns and you don't want to go out in that sun, then don't forget to sunbathe here. And when you do that, draw from that energy, draw from that prana, and you'll receive 100 times more than if you sit passively, probably 1,000 times more than if you sit and you aren't even focused on the spiritual eye. You're just spaced out somewhere. So we've all faced that. We've all struggled with that. But attunement begins, let's face it, attunement begins by attuning. Without that, we aren't going to get anywhere. So there are some stages that will help this. The first is that unless we have the intention to attune our energy, nothing's going to happen. I mean, we're all here. Many of us had spiritual renewal week or came for Kriya initiations. All of us here are here at Sunday service, whether online or physically, and we're drawing from this grace. So all of us have some intention to draw energy and attunement from these great masters. For most of us, because God has taken manifested form that resonates with our patterns, one might say. He's taken manifested form as Yogananda or as this line of gurus, then that's where we should look for attunement. It doesn't mean that others shouldn't look for someplace else for attunement. But this is where it resonates for us. And so our intention should be to try to draw sensitively as if we're sunbathing, sensitively from the vibration of the pranic blessing that comes from Master or any of the masters. And so that intention is the most important thing, because otherwise you won't even begin. If you're not hungry, if you have no intention of eating, you're not going to eat. If you don't have some spiritual hunger and feed that spiritual hunger, then nothing much will happen. So you need to start with the intention and everything that you can do to keep that alive and stronger. Now, during this wonderful week, we've had this huge uplifting force of energy of all the talks and all the satsang and all the music and the environment and the food and everything. We've been in a little hothouse of spiritual vibration. And you take a sun-starved plant, you put it in a hothouse and it goes through a growth spurt. Well, we've gone through a growth spurt. Our spiritual life has gone through a growth spurt in this last week or this last weekend, or hopefully in the last 10 minutes. But if we don't feed that, if we don't keep it alive, it's going to, that uplifting force it's going to just settle down. It's like a satellite that's gone up into orbit. It's eventually going to come back down and burn up in the atmosphere. So our spiritual intention will come back down unless we energize it, unless we give actual energy to keeping it alive and aloft. And I would say there are three kind of windows of opportunity. The first is quite short. The first window of opportunity is today. Those of you who've been with us for the week or the weekend, if you don't make a spiritual determination and an intention today, tomorrow's not going to be easier. Next Sunday is not going to be easier. It'll all be downhill from here. So that first window, literally take something from this week, something from your upliftment. Not very many, one or two or three that you will actually practice and actually put into action, and make a determination, a strong intention to do that. Because if you do that, this week will have lasting benefit for you. If you were to do that and actually do that next year when you come back, you'll be at a higher level. We told this story yesterday. We had a satsang, but it's too good to not tell twice. Years ago, Devi and I taught a course on Patanjali, week-long course on Patanjali. And as we do at the end of our longer courses, we always end by having kind of a group discussion so people can say what they got out of it or what particularly appealed to them and so on, kind of a wrap-up session. And there was this one fellow who had a good sense of humor. And he said, you know, when I came here, I was very confused. I'm still confused, but at a higher level. So apply that to Spiritual Renewal Week. We're still in Maya, but at a much higher level. But if we want to stay at that higher level, we have to activate it. So the intention, firm it up today, because if you don't, you probably won't, period. Then you have another window of about 3 days, say between now and Wednesday, to act on that intention. If you don't act on it, it'll just be a dream, a nice thought that passes through like a thief in the night and sneaks out with your inspiration. So act on it. Between now and Wednesday, put it into action. And then I would say the third window of opportunity, let's say that we are deciding from this week that we haven't been very good at doing the energization exercises. So we're going to decide that we're going to put energy into the energization exercises. If you don't do them daily, then your first intention should be to do them daily. If you do them daily, your first intention should be to do them well. And if you do them fairly well, I would say use one of the intentions that came from this week. Pay attention to what you're doing when you do them. Don't have your mind wandering and multitasking. Pay attention. Anyway, whatever it is, that's just an example. But between now and Wednesday, activate your intention. And then the third window of opportunity is to set that as a habit and that figure the next month. So if you make the intention, if you act in the next 2 days, and then you continue for the next month, you will set a habit pattern that will then help you maintain the inspiration that you've been experiencing. Or your desire, since we're talking about attunement, your desire to be ever more attuned to Master, to this line of gurus. There are 3 ways, there are many, many, hundreds of ways that we can attune to the energies of these great masters. But there are 3 ways that if we want to attune to their energies, that we have to do these 3 things. One is we have to meditate. They came in order to bring meditation. They brought the techniques of meditation. They brought Kriya Yoga, but most above all, they came to change the consciousness of the world from kind of outward ritual to inward communion with God. And that takes place in meditation. So we have to attune, if we're going to draw from that vine, from that source, draw the life force. Think of Master as the root, Swami as the branch that we're on, Ananda as the branch that we're on. We're drawing that prana, we're drawing that sap, that energy from in that way. So if we're drawing from that, one of the aspects of that is that we have to meditate. So if you don't do it, your intention as you leave is, I'm going to meditate twice a day no matter what. Just leave it at that and stick with it, and you'll have made tremendous strides. Okay, the next thing, meditation. The next thing that we all have to do as disciples of this, we have to, throughout the day, have to try to keep turning our minds toward God, to remember God during the day, to think of God. Just little things, little Davy and I have pictures of Master and other things around our house. Just when you see a picture of Master or one of the Masters or anything that uplifts you, just stop and draw that energy. Master talks in Autobiography of a Yogi about Master Mahashaya, who is a deep, wonderful, was kind of almost like the first proto-guru of Master, as you will remember. But Master Mahashaya would, when he came to a body of water, he would always stop and connect with it and pray, because his master told him to do that. Ramakrishna told him to do that. And so he just did that as a practice to stay attuned. So whatever, you need to find things that work for you, little ways. I happen to have an iWatch. I don't know if you can see, but on that iWatch is a picture of Master that keeps changing. So every time I look at the time, I get to see Master's face looking at me. Now that in and of itself is almost meaningless unless I connect with Master. Otherwise, these outward symbols, they help a little bit, but not very much. We need to, with our hearts, with our attunement, with that intention, we need to connect more deeply. So the first thing we have to do is meditate. We have to think of God throughout the day, periodically. Don't have the expectation you're never going to spend a second during the day without thinking of God. It won't happen, but periodically tune in and strengthen that. You know, one of the things we based the week on was the Wisdom of Yogananda series of books. It's a wonderful, wonderful series of books. Why don't you decide to take one of those and have it by your bed, and so every night before you go to sleep, you read one of those little sayings or suggestions, and not just read it, but integrate it, think about it. Bring it into, because there are just absolute gems in that. Or if you've done that, you can do Conversations with Yogananda or Essence of Self-Realization. There are several books that have little bite-sized chunks of teaching that will give you just a little inspiration, but that little bit repeated with variation every day is more important than once every 3 months spending an hour reading a book. It absorbs, like food absorbs better having it 3 times a day than it does once every 2 months having that same amount. So keep that alive during the day, in the evening, something, but keep the spotlight of your mind turned toward God. And then the final thing, if we're going to attune to this ray, we have to serve in some way. Master said, without service, you cannot get there. Swami, we have this saying on the wall in our Sangha outreach office. It's something that Swami said years ago. He said, Ananda is like a great wave that wants to give and give as long as there is anyone wanting to receive. Well, my friends, there's somebody out there in your life that wants to receive. And so serve them with kindness, serve them with, as we heard in the affirmation, serve them in some way with the vibration that will help uplift them. And if you're a disciple, in some way that their consciousness is open to it, then help them attune to this ray of grace that is coming. Not as disciples, not as anything other than this great wave that wants to give and give and give. as long as anyone is willing to receive it. Well, be a channel for that wave in your own life, in your own way. And if you don't know how to do a kind of service that you'd like to do, join this virtual community. Be part of the family of Ananda that wants to give and give and give. And by tuning into that, you'll find lots of different ways of service. But those three things. So the meditation practice, solid, strong, ever deepening if you can. Secondly, turning the spotlight of your mind toward this great line of masters, to draw from them, to attune yourself, and somehow to keep your heart and mind open to their gift of spirit, and then serving by giving that on to others. If we do that, we'll come back next year at a maintaining higher level. And that's all we can hope for, that day by day, year by year, we keep making spiritual progress. God bless you.
If you're seeking freedom in a revolution, oh, if you're seeking freedom, you won't find it there. For once the guns stop blazing, you'll find it amazing how the world can drag on just as before. If you're seeking freedom in a marble mansion, oh, if you're seeking freedom, you won't find it there. For even when it's sunny, you'll be counting money, keeping up that showcase your face lined with care. And if you're seeking freedom on a throne of power, oh, if you're seeking freedom, you won't find it there. For no one will obey you. What if they betray you? Tents you'll be and waiting for foes everywhere. But if you're seeking freedom, cast away desires. Why march like a beggar, you roam everywhere. For never can you buy it, grasp and you deny it. Freedom can't be hoarded, it's free as the air. And if you're seeking freedom, seek it on the mountains. Got sunlight on your shoulders, the wind in your hair. For there's no one can hold you, toss about or mold you. Once your heart is free, you